We are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of your hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
I'm doing great, Blake. I'm shocked always when we get to a Sunday episode and it's not football season and we have 6 topics that we can talk about. I'm always so pleasantly surprised when we get to a day like this because we're so close, but we're yet so far from the start of this season.
Yeah, and some that, are all pretty much preseason-y stuff, but can make for massive changes in college athletics. Mainly is North Carolina going to the SEC. We'll talk about that to start off the show. But Greg Sankey fires back at James Franklin. And Joe, I went and counted today. 9 times that I counted on Twitter of a clip being posted from a different coach from a different conference taking a shot at the SEC. 9.
Well, so here's the funny thing. I'm not going to bring this up when we get to that segment. The funniest thing, Lashley's comments were very direct. Cignetti's comments were very direct. Tony Petitti didn't take a shot, but he planted his flag on his playoff model. Lincoln Riley talked about the playoff model that's best for everybody, meaning the 4-4-2-2-1 in opposition to the SEC. James Franklin's comments were probably the most benign and like the less aggressive one. And that was the one that Sankey decided to respond to. But I think it's overall just him. It was a message that should be sent to the entire Big Ten and the entire ACC of, like, hey, I'm joking around here a little bit with James Franklin, but like, you guys need to sit down and relax. You guys got to stop talking all this crap.
Well, and we'll talk about this James Franklin and Greg Sankey little thing here. Mm-hmm. James Franklin, give him credit. I don't like him calling it the other conference when it's the SEC championship in college baseball and he's sitting in Vandy's dugout. Legitimately happened. Go back and look at it. So you have a really good relationship with Tim Corbin, who's a head coach in the SEC, calling it the other conference, a school that's really taken you in and gave you your first shot. But to James Franklin's credit, he said that in 2016, which we'll talk about, the Big Ten made the worst move it ever did by going to 9 conference games, and we're all sitting up here saying the SEC should go to 9. We're trying to tell them to do what we did. Why would they do what we did? So in his own little comment, James Franklin takes a shot at not only the SEC, he takes a shot at the Big Ten and Kevin Warren too.
The other thing that was like really perplexing with like this past week with Franklin, one, he said a lot of things that were actually kind of true against the move to go to Las Vegas for Big Ten Media Days.
Yeah, he was very
make a lot of sense. And then he pissed off a lot of Notre Dame fans, which he continues to do, how he's pointing out all of this stuff with Notre Dame scheduling and how if they were in a conference, wouldn't have made it as far as they did, is kind of what he was insinuating. I can't find the exact quote, but he said something along the lines of, Notre Dame didn't have to play the likes of the Big Ten. Meanwhile, Notre Dame played USC and Purdue last year. So it's like, what
and Indiana.
So you're trying, and they also played Penn State, but you're trying to plant this flag that Notre Dame didn't belong where they were. And meanwhile, they played a pretty competitive ACC/Big Ten schedule compared to.
They went undefeated against the Big Ten.
Yeah.
They went 4-0 against you. Joe, it's like so we're going to talk about this James Franklin thing. That's actually in my notes. We have 2 coaches talking about schedules and being top heavy and scheduling, and you didn't go through what we went through. They beat you, James. They literally beat you on the field. You get what I'm saying? They go undefeated in the conference that you play in. They beat you. I mean,
you're right.
You didn't let a receiver for Penn State did not catch a pass in the game, and you went out and got 3 receivers from the portal. You changed your whole philosophy based off the Notre Dame game.
Well, and the other part about this too is that the shade that's thrown, it's bugging the crap out of me because I'm trying to find this.
They lose to Ohio State, I guess.
Yeah. Well, not technically, they did lose to Ohio State, but the part with all this is this has been a very tense offseason between Penn State, Notre Dame, because there'd been instances where Notre Dame beat Penn State out for top recruits. Joey O'Brien was one of those guys. There were guys in the state of Pennsylvania that were very publicly stating there was this whole mantra that they had, which was the best players in Pennsylvania leave the state. And there were multiple guys that committed to ND that came from the state of Pennsylvania, including.
So shots fired.
Yeah, it's been a very contentious summer since that press conference before the Orange Bowl. It feels like it's really started to get more and more tense. It's bugging the crap out of me because I saw this quote, I saw the clip, and I can't find.
Well, how about this?
Quote.
Go find the quote. We'll talk about it when we get there from James Franklin. Not the only big news. Speaking of Notre Dame, Lincoln Riley was asked about the rivalry between USC and Notre Dame. We'll touch on that and talk on that. Is that, Joe, I got to be honest with you. It seems like SC might not want to do this anymore, if I'm just being real with you. So we'll talk on that. Sherrone Moore clarifies the QB battle at Michigan, so we'll talk about that as well. Joe, have you been seeing a lot of these Michigan media people saying pump the brakes on Underwood?
I think that they're just trying to limit hyped expectations for him, which is kind of silly. It's very funny because everybody outside of the Michigan sphere is talking him up a ton. So I'm very intrigued by that.
Well, I get what they're trying to say. I mean, again, don't Dylan Raiola this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe, we literally, with all due respect to guys that on 3, 2, 4, 7, etc., brother, they had Nebraska as a playoff contender when Dylan Raiola was announced as starter. Don't do that. Don't put expectations on him because, again, there's going to be freshman moments, but we'll talk about that as well.
Yep.
And, Joe, if we have time, we'll get to Eli Drinkwitz's extension. How do you get extended but don't make more money?
I know. That was very odd. It was very odd. It didn't make any sense to me.
Makes no sense to me, but I guess it got taken off the table when you go up to a podium and start making fun of the Epstein files. Or if we have time at the end, I mean, he did.
No, he did.
Yeah, I mean, he did. So if not, speaking of Epstein files, if we do have time, President Trump did sign an executive order. We are currently holding off on this because at the current moment between you and I talking off air, we'll just make this one statement. I don't know what there is to really address here at the current moment.
I think that I did a radio spot in Atlanta the day that it got announced, and I straight up said, those that are covering this and have experience covering all the legal pieces in college sports right now, they're saying that this is not as big a news as I think everybody realizes. I think everyone sees president, executive order, college sports. They think that everything is fixed, resolved, everything's changed. There's a lot of things that have to happen, not to mention the fact that all the states don't have the same laws right now. So, yeah, we're kind of holding off.
Sorry.
Well, that was all I was saying is that we're kind of holding off because we need more clarity. It's really not. We're just at the beginning of this.
Well, it's not ineffective, as Ross said. Just for clarity, Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports came out there and said that, basically was trying, he did say that it was insignificant, was his word on Feinbaum. It's not insignificant. What it does is it gives Congress a leg to go in here and pass the SCORE Act, is what everybody wants, right? I mean, that's basically what is intended here. I mean, I don't think that the president of the United States, with all due respect to any president, which we don't talk politics, I'm pretty sure he's not sitting up at night and going, man, how do I fix NIL and transfer portal? I just really don't think that is a big case. Trump did say on Air Force One, he did say that all this would be over if they would come to everybody with a collective bargaining agreement, which I mean, that was his only statement. So, I mean,
well, that goes against what the whole executive order is supposed to be, which is establishing that athletes aren't employees.
And that's what that's what he was trying to do. He's trying to build himself up by saying that they made me intervene when I shouldn't have had to intervene. That's basically what I think he was trying to say. But look, when it gets all here and done, we'll get to it. All right. Everybody do us a favor, though, by hitting the like and share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. If you're watching us, listening to us on YouTube, like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. Joe, some big news. Excuse me. Sorry. Some big news coming out of, I guess, technically the SEC, but especially North Carolina, as it's not official, but definitely seems to be talks. If I would have told you 5 years ago, North Carolina head coach and SEC head coach Bill Belichick at North Carolina, I think you would have called me crazy. But on Friday, it was reported by Inside the Hills of On3 that North Carolina has had conversations with the SEC on joining the conference in a couple of years. Joe, mainly 2027 when that buyout goes down to $75 million. Your thoughts on potentially North Carolina going to the Southeastern Conference?
The other part about this that I noticed hasn't really been in circulation with the news inside Carolina was the people who broke it, but Scott Hamilton of the Post and Courier was on Feinbaum this past week and said that they have a handshake deal with the SEC, which who knows what that means? You know, who knows if that is it's as intentionally vague as it needs to be.
Did you listen to the interview?
I did not catch the full interview. I was going off of a write-up.
He said they agreed in principle was what he was saying.
Okay.
Meaning like a handshake deal, like agreed in principle that this is going to happen.
I want to look back to a year ago when this news first came out. And I said on this show, in the next wave of realignment, if the ACC explodes, it's not going to be because of Florida State or Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to be of a completely different, almost random school that is the catalyst for massive change. North Carolina makes a lot more sense to go to the SEC than it does for Florida State and for Clemson. You have a rivalry between Clemson and South Carolina. We saw the problems that were caused by Texas joining the SEC with the rivalry that they have with Texas A&M. You already have a major footprint in the state of Florida. So why are you bringing in Florida State? The advantage you get with bringing in North Carolina is that you're expanding your impact in other sports. You're adding one of the most premier brands in basketball. You're adding an athletic program that dominates in all the Olympic sports. They're a great baseball program.
They are.
They're willing to spend money. I think that this is a move that we can sit here and talk about, Blake, but the thing is it doesn't really change anything for football. I think they walk into the SEC and they stink at football. Like, I think that they would be like a bottom tier recurring bad team in the SEC because they just don't have the recruiting impact, even if they were in the SEC, to do any damage against the top squads. We see what it takes to like get into the mix at the top. It requires some serious commitment when we know that commitment goes towards basketball. But this all goes back to what I said last year, Blake, that if we're going to get an explosion of the ACC and for somebody to leave, it wasn't going to be Florida State and wasn't going to be Clemson. It was probably going to be a school like UNC instead.
Who else is going with North Carolina?
UVA was the other one that was brought up.
Here's the thing. Craig Sankey lied to us to our face literally 3 months ago at SEC spring meetings. He said, we are not expanding. Do you want the exact quote? Here it is. We are not expanding, end quote, on Feinbaum. So I understand playing the political side of this. If you're Sankey, you don't want people to know what you're doing. You're also not a politician, okay? Now, I'm going to defend Sankey in just a minute with his James Franklin thing. But as of right now, two things can be true at once. You're not a politician. You're not. You should be able to tell fans, which this is just a game, some of these things that are going on in this recurring theme. Don't say you're not doing it when you know that you are. Now, again, understand the political side of it. He can say, well, we got to kind of play a little politics. I get that. But if you want to be the face of college athletics and start fixing some of this stuff, you want to get to a playoff format that everybody can agree to, you can't be out there lying and poaching other people from other conferences. I'm sure Jim Phillips, who did say that he knew some of these conversations were happening, Maybe that's why he's a little pissed off. And maybe now we see some of the decision-making of Jim Phillips. Now, with all of that being said, Joe, who's the second team? Because I don't think the SEC expands and goes to odd numbers. Maybe it's Virginia. What, for me, felt the more right thing to do, I don't know if they're doing this, this is opinion, is adding Duke. Because if you add Duke, you get the entire state of North Carolina on your side. I understand going to Virginia and getting that massive TV footprint. It's a massive TV footprint for you to get that. We'll see what happens. But here, my first thought when I saw this news on Friday morning was not how great this is, basketball, whatever. My first thought is who else? Because I don't see the SEC being at an odd number of teams. So that would be something to monitor. In reference to North Carolina, you hit the nail on the head here. Joe, baseball and basketball would be the two things that they would probably come in here and really do some special things. Baseball has been more dominant last couple of years than basketball has, but basketball is what North Carolina is known for, and they will once again go on top. The thing with this is that when the SEC network was built, Joe, where was it built at? Was it built in the SEC footprint or the outside of the SEC footprint? It was built on the outside of the SEC footprint in Charlotte, North Carolina. I think this has always been on Sankey's mind. I think that getting into North Carolina has always been there. You were right on one thing. Why would I go get Florida State first when I already got the state of Florida? I could literally go to somewhere we haven't been and go get the state of North Carolina. So my two thoughts here. Who else? Okay, great for basketball and the investment that the SEC has made in men's basketball, which, Joe, quite honestly, in women's basketball as well, it's really good for that sport. You also hit the nail on the head. For football, Joe, there is one thing that I will push back on. It might force North Carolina to get very serious about football. Like, very serious. Because what are you going to do? Keep getting your shit kicked in? I mean, I guess you can Kentucky this thing. But the last thing I would say, hypothetically, I think Duke makes more sense. Could you imagine a conference with North Carolina and Kentucky in the same conference? Now you're talking, and Florida now that it's rising.
Right.
So give Sankey some credit. The SEC has gotten a lot better in basketball under his tutelage.
A couple of things that you just brought up there. I understand why Duke makes sense, because you're maintaining that rivalry, and that rivalry generates ridiculous viewership. Like, you'd be able to sell that game alone for basketball.
Game in the regular season, but the only game that was outside of the playoff from a viewership standpoint, to your point, all of them were Final Four games. The number 5 game was North Carolina versus Duke in the regular season.
Right. That has a lot of importance. But at the same time, like, we still know that there's contention between these institutions. They don't operate where they think like that as business minded as they could be. They're going to think like, screw them. We're going to do what's best for us. We don't need to help them out in the process. To Duke's credit,
Oklahoma State.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
To Duke's credit, they've been a rising football program recently. They spent the most money on a quarterback in the transfer portal by going after and paying Darian Metza. So, like, there's a little bit more proof of what they could accomplish. I think that the ceiling for North Carolina is Kentucky for football. I don't think that they're going to be able to do more than that. I think they can kind of spend in that same degree on NIL. I think that you could rip off the occasional 9-3 season, be knocking on the door of the playoff, but then expectations are kind of returned down to them being more middle of the pack. I don't think they'd be Mississippi State bad. I don't think that they'd be Vandy bad. I think that they'd have a little bit more pride in being able to accomplish that. The only thing that I push back on you on, though, Sankey can't talk about this stuff because if he's public about it, then it gives Jim Phillips a grounds to some sort of interference. I don't know enough about the legal situation with these contracts and how they work, but I would think that with all we do is talk about tampering, that there'd be some sort of tampering charge there if there was a handshake agreement that's been established.
You don't have to say, though, that we aren't expanding and then literally
it's fair.
So I get what you're saying. You're right. And that's why I said he's got to play the political side of it, and I understand it. But at the same time, you're not a politician. Like, you mean to tell me that a conversation between Jim Phillips and Greg Sankey about North Carolina didn't happen? Are we really going there? You could have said something very easy. Joe, we never know. With everything that's moved around in college athletics, I have no clue what our plans are. In reference to, and maybe not say it like that, but I don't know what tomorrow brings. Don't slam the door and think I'm a fool. Leave the door open and unlocked and say, hey, I don't know what's happening. And listen, I get again, you're right. You kind of in a way can't do it, but we've gotten to a place where Joe he's trying to lead college athletics the way that he sees them. At least that's the persona that he puts on. Okay? You want the 5+11 model and you want people to back you? Stop lying to people. You want the general public to back you? Stop lying. You can't run out there at SEC media days and say, I'm not going to do what they're telling me to do, and then turn right around and tell the general public that, oh, hey, I've been lying to you. Now, I don't know if an SEC fan, I say SEC fan, or a fan of a team inside the SEC. Joe's someone who covers the team in the SEC. I love it for basketball. I love it because I get LSU going to North Carolina. Hey, for once, instead of the Kentucky game, I get another one I can talk about. If they play twice a season, I get something to talk about here. Yeah. No one's hating on it, but it also gets to a point where we're on this show, we talk about football. Joe, I'm going to push back on your pushback. They're giving 44% of TV revenue to basketball. I don't know from a TV revenue standpoint that they can be competitive like these other teams in the SEC. There's not an SEC team not named Kentucky, which Kentucky's doing it as well, pretty much the same model as North Carolina. But I don't know if you're going to be that relevant in football when you're giving that much money to other sports too. Because, Joe, let's just be honest with you. When Jarrett Curtis commits to the University of Georgia, we got Pete Nakos running out there literally within the hour talking about, which shout out to Pete Nakos on getting engaged, but we literally have him out here saying that sources, we have talked to Georgia, we've talked to the Curtis family, there's going to be a TV revenue deal of $1 million. Sounds good. North Carolina can't do that based off the percentages. And maybe you can tell me I'm wrong here, but I don't see another way. Like, I do think that there's going to be a little bit of a separation gap in TV revenue. Here's a hot take. You ready? I think that you're going to start separating the sport, because when you start giving TV revenue money and some of these different schools have different sports that they're better than, Joe, what is Kentucky and North Carolina football going to be? I mean, when you're not giving that level of money, I mean, come on now.
Well, I think that there's a real chance that a lot more of those resources do end up going more towards basketball. On this conversation point of spending money, there was something that happened this offseason with North Carolina that might have been an indicator that this was going to happen, Blake.
What was that?
They signed Bill Belichick to be their head coach. They signed him to a $10 million deal. He is the 8th highest paid coach. And the reason why I'm saying that this was an indicator, before that signing, a coach of his name and his annual value was not on North Carolina's radar. We were talking about Summerall as maybe an option that would make sense. Like one of these G5 guys,
you think
to jump up and take
to be attractive to go to the SEC.
I think that, well, actually, that wasn't even where I was going to go, but I think that should be a part of this thought process. And then the other part is that they know that there's more money coming. They know that there's a chance that there could be more money down the line of, however many years from now when they decide to leave. If it's in the next 2 years, if it's in the next 5, I think that move, that going after Bill Belichick, was a little surprising for what it was, but the amount of money that they spent is not typical for a UNC head coach to be in the top 10 for a contract. So this has to mean something for this.
Well, not only that, I mean, per the report of Inside Tar Heels, they would probably and more than likely do this in 2027 and pay $75 million. Now, the reason that's key, that $75 million goes, to the ACC in a buyout, which gets extinguished to its members, or supposed to. Joe, if I'm the ACC and this happens, remember the team that we talked about last week that tried to go in the Big 12 but missed? I'm calling Memphis. I'm 1,000% calling the University of Memphis. Say, what's up?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about that last week. Listen, bottom line is this. I don't think that North Carolina will be the only one. They're the first domino to fall. But, Joe, you start letting Miami, you start letting Florida State, you start letting some of these other programs fall out. What does Florida State do now? Does Miami say, hey, if they're going, we got to go too? Like, it could Pac-12 itself. When USC said they were out, Joe, you remember the whole realignment talk? It wasn't Oregon. It was USC. And when USC said, hey, we're taking UCLA with us to the Big Ten, but we're out, Joe, all the other big dominoes started to fall. So what's the most interesting thing here to me is what other dominoes start falling in the ACC, and does the ACC have a shitload of money coming their way in this re-expansion? I don't know.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we'll see what happens with this, but it seems like things are starting to heat up, man. Why do I feel like we're gonna be like June of next year? We're just gonna be kind of sitting on our hands, and then boom, it's gonna be like
an SEC meeting. It's like what literally happened with Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
or spring meetings.
Or Big Ten media days, when all of a sudden, boom, here comes USC. Mm-hmm. I mean, Joe, we've seen this story before. I mean, it's like, I love the John Wick movies, but here's the truth about the John Wick movies. They're all the exact same. It's like a Drake album. It's the same exact beat over and over and over again. I mean, don't tell me we've already seen it. It's like it's funny.
It's becoming predictable. It's becoming
very predictable. Hey, it's like what I told you off air to start our conversation today. I've seen the movie Frozen a lot as someone who has a 3-year-old. Mm-hmm. Do you want to build a snowman? I've seen the movie before.
Do you want to build a conference? Do you want to build a
conference? Yeah, that's really interesting. I do know one guy who defends his conference. Well, at least take some petty shots. Is Greg Sankey. As Greg Sankey on Friday posted a photo on Twitter that said TOC, but in the SEC emblem, taking a shot at Penn State head coach James Franklin. James Franklin at Big Ten Media Days last week, Joe, called the SEC that other conference. It was the 9th time that the Big Ten or the ACC had a reference about the SEC at their media days. Joe, Greg Sankey taking a shot, firing back at James Franklin. I guess your thoughts about this whole SEC Big Ten stuff that continues to go on.
Well, I'm just reiterating what I said at the very beginning of the show. I find it super funny after all the direct aggressive shots that came from so many different areas from unjustified sources, sources that have not proven that they deserve to be taking the shots that they were. We've got upstart programs like Indiana and SMU that are just starting to taste the what it's like to have success in college football. Yes. And they're coming in and trying to deliver these big uppercuts. It's the comment by Franklin, which I actually don't even think that he was trying to really stir anything. Franklin has this very snarky way about the way that he talks. If you remember back to that Orange Bowl conference, the ways that he was talking about Marcus Freeman and how pissed off Marcus Freeman looked during that press conference.
I remember.
He generally has a very disrespectful tone when he says certain things, but I don't know if this had that complete total intention. I think that what Sankey ultimately is just trying to do here, trying to say to everybody needs to shut the hell up. Everybody needs, we need a little bit more respect here for what we should be getting for what everybody's trying to chime in on how they're operating. That was how I took it.
Remember in high school when there always be some drama, and if you were a part of the drama and there was somebody else that you saw for the first time, maybe it was at school, or you go out to the movies with your girlfriend and you see somebody, or the guy that's been talking shit about you, and you look at them and they instantly know that you know, like, hey, it's kind of like the whole, hey, I know what you've been saying. We hear you. Greg Sankey was pretty much posting it saying, okay, we heard you. Keep the same energy, right? It was a keep the same energy post. Like, okay, go right on ahead. Y'all been talking a lot of shit this week. We hear all of it. Now let's bring it. Joe, we've been having a lot of shit talk going on to the SEC this offseason. Big Ten, if we're just going to be honest, which I think is a little ironic. Joe, why didn't they take these shots until now? What changed the last 2 years? Well, you won 2 national titles, okay? It's not the first time in the last 2 decades the SEC has not won back or been a part of back-to-back national titles. Literally happened the last time we all realigned. 2024 sounds good. Remember when A&M and Missouri and all these different teams started to realign? I do. It's the last time the SEC didn't win national titles. Joe, they better win. The Big Ten better go out there and win another one. Because let me tell you what we're going to do at the end of the season. And I'm telling you now, I'm forecasting like I'm the genie off of Aladdin, speaking of Disney movies. The narrative that you and I are going to have at the end of the year are one of 2 things. Either number one, the Big Ten, somebody in the Big Ten wins another national title, and we all come in here and say, hey, yeah, they might be the best conference in the country. I mean, they're certainly doing it, and God forbid if it's another team in the Big Ten not named Ohio State and Michigan. You would have to look here and say, hey, Penn State wins, again, hypothetically, Penn State wins a national title. Joe, they won 3 in a row. You lose, and the SEC wins a national title, Joe, they're coming after you. You've talked a lot of shit. And the leverage that I think that the Big Ten gives the SEC if they were to win it. Greg Sankey picks up the phone. Remember in SEC Media Days, he says he talks to Tony Petitti 4 to 5 days a week. Okay. Well, Greg Sankey is going to say, hey, listen, you won 2, good for you. But in the last 5 years, we've won 3 of them. Historically, we've been the deeper conference and the better conference. Joe, I got to be honest with you. Like we talked with Tommy Castellanos, like we talked with Diego Pavia, like we talked with all the shit talk that's been going on around college football. You better back it up. Because, again, if you're going to continue to take shots, you better make sure that those shots are accurate and right. Because if the SEC dominates, Joe, I'm going to be honest with you, they're going to come with a vengeance, and they should.
You know what just kind of occurred to me, and this actually, I've kind of, anyone who's listened to the segments that we had in the past week where we talked a lot about this, like I kind of sat back and let you share your thoughts on this because you have a SEC tie-in, I don't. The team I support is an independent. We've got Notre Dame has nothing to even chime in on this because especially we're the punching bag for, hey, those assholes need to be in a conference. But
well, James Franklin took a shot at you too.
Well, right. The thing that I'm realizing, and this is actually starting to make me lean in favor of the SEC, which is gross to admit. You don't hear shots come from Ohio State, from Michigan, from Florida State, from Clemson. You don't get the shots from the top programs.
You don't.
Getting national titles, that are consistently getting to the Big Ten championship games, that are consistently in the mix for the playoff. But more importantly, the programs that are very aggressive. That's what all these teams have in common. They're very aggressive about non-conference scheduling. So they don't say anything. They don't. We're watching Ohio State schedule games with Texas. We watched Michigan schedule a game with Oklahoma and with Texas. We watched Clemson schedule a game with LSU this upcoming year.
Yeah.
So we're not hearing
Florida State. Florida State did the same thing, and they're doing it again with Bama.
Why are we hearing the shit talking coming from the people that aren't scheduling the hard games and are also the ones that aren't at the pinnacle? That's what's like the goofy thing for me.
Because every one of those coaches at every one of those schools have been in situations like Ryan Day, and they go into a national title and their doors get blown off by an SEC team. Just call it what it is. You know why Florida State's not talking? Because the last time they faced off against an SEC team when they were worth a damn, they got their doors blown off. Know why Clemson isn't talking shit to the SEC right now? Joe, they went 0-3 against the SEC last year. That's why they're not.
We all remember the last national title that they went to, too.
What happened there?
Smoked by LSU.
Oh, and by the way, did you see the clips this week? They thought they could beat them. The Clemson fans are going out there saying, "Oh, we could have beat them." Brother, no, you couldn't have. You legitimately couldn't.
That's revisionist. That's revisionist history. I did see that. That's insane.
All I'm saying is that at the end of the year last year, what did everybody want to talk about? We have a clip on this channel, us talking about it and debating it. Oh, Blake, the SEC was down. Oh, Joe, the SEC was down. The Big Ten runs college football now. You lost 17 of the last 20 national titles. So again, there comes a little bit of part of this, like somebody wins in PlayStation twice in a row on you, they think they're better than you. They start talking shit. It's like kind of what I do to you, and we've only played once. I mean, but it's the truth. You better go out there and win. You better, because all the SEC's done all season. Joe, when have you, outside of Kirby talking about the playoff and taking a shot at Indiana, that's the only one that I remember of coaches at SEC Media Days saying anything about the Big Ten.
Right. And I have to also say, by the way, to be very clear here, I don't agree with the last part that you threw in there. I'm not on the same page of like, bringing up. I understand that the SEC over the past 20 years has been the most successful. There is still truth to the SEC having a down year last year. Like that I still stand by.
But
I still stand by the last year's down year, but we can't act like that there's suddenly like it is an unstoppable force, the Big Ten. That is where I think that where the conference support is misguided. I think that the Big Ten's rising, though. I think that the Big Ten is absolutely rising, and there's a chance for them to win a third straight this year.
Sure, but here's the thing. What I'm saying is either they're going to have the upper leg and be 3-0 in the last national titles, or the SEC is going to come in here and say, y'all talk way too much crazy shit during the offseason. I mean, Joe, I guarantee, remember this day. At the end of the year, you and I are going to come in here and say, at the end of the year, oh, man, Big Ten won it again. Or, hey, Joe, you got 2 SEC teams in it again. Now what? What are we going to do now? So there's no even ground. One of those 2 conferences are going to win, or Clemson. Let's just be real. Some of the top teams in the Big Ten or the top teams in the SEC, Notre Dame or Clemson, are going to win it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot of – come on. And I don't know how much we trust all of them, but nevertheless, here we go. Speaking of Notre Dame, since I threw them in there at the end, I guess it's a bad transition. Speaking of the Big Ten, and now speaking of Notre Dame, Joe, at Big Ten Media Days last week, Lincoln Riley was asked about the rivalry with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, a long-standing rivalry between the two. In the comment to Lincoln Riley in his response about the Notre Dame game and the rivalry, he says, and I quote, "Do I want to play this game? Hell yeah. It was one of the reasons why I came to USC. But also my allegiance is to USC and going to do everything that I can to do to help USC," indicating that he doesn't know if they're going to continue to play this rivalry between Notre Dame and USC. Joe, I got an easy solution. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Play them in the beginning of the year, every single year, and make that your big out-of-conference game. Guess what? Like Clemson and South Carolina and all the other teams that have in-state rival outside of conferences do. The easy fix.
That's been like – sorry, I'm going to cut you off. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, but, I mean, it seems like this rivalry might be in trouble.
Well, one of the thing you just brought up with the rivalries being moved up to the beginning of the year, that is something that's been pitched by a lot of people, that if we move that to week 1, or there's also been the even more aggressive thought of like, let's make week 0 actually week 1. Let's move rivalry week to that second to last week of August, or that last week of August, whatever it is, move it to that spot so that there's less issues with impacted conference play and all those things. But here's what bugs the crap out of me with the whole Lincoln Riley perspective on the USC Notre Dame game. he said a lot of the right things. I give Lincoln Riley credit to hyping it up and talking about the importance to him. And he went as far as to even bring up, I don't know if it's true, but he went as far as to bring up how he gets to coach in the Notre Dame USC game was the first thing that he thought of when he got offered the job. The problem is that he then used this as an avenue to start preaching the 4-4-2-2-1 model.
Mm-hmm.
And as we said last week, the flaws that come with Tony Petitti's plan for this playoff model, as opposed to the 5-11 model, he's bringing up, we need to have unity and a schedule across the sport that is even, that everybody's doing the same things. But the problem, when we go to this play-in style to then earn opportunities for bids for your conference record is the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter what you do in your non-conference. So you can't talk out of one side of your mouth saying that if we move to this new model, we get to keep this important rivalry, when that rivalry just basically becomes an exhibition game in this new projected playoff plan. It doesn't make any sense to me, Blake. And I think that this is just continued proof that, no, he and USC are not serious about keeping this game. And they've been unsuccessful about competing with Notre Dame in the past 20 years. They have been getting their asses kicked. Him specifically has been getting his ass kicked. And historically, Notre Dame has the upper hand in this rivalry. They are not motivated because they know that if they play them, there's a strong chance that they're going to lose, and it's going to impact their resume, and it's going to hurt their chances of getting in.
Damn.
That's what I said the first time about that segment. that video got taken down for undisclosed reasons.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Damn.
But am I wrong?
No,
I keep coming back to this shit that Petitti said. It's like, oh, well, if everybody's got the same schedule, we can figure this out. No, you can't. These games don't mean anything.
No, but why would you? But there's a couple of layers to this. Number one, hold on. Don't get mad at me. I understand what he's saying. I understand what he's trying to say. Why would I play tougher teams when literally I got to do another play-in game and do all these things? Listen, I don't agree with him, but I understand what he's saying. That's number one. Number two, I think it's bullshit. Okay? Could you imagine a rivalry and how much bitter it would be if, Joe, you had a 5-year window of me and you coming out here talking about Notre Dame and USC in the conversations in leading up to the season? Yep, and we got Notre Dame and USC as we always do in week 1. I'm telling you, a whole all season between those two fan bases, things would get toxic. Good. That's what a rivalry is supposed to be. I love the idea of that. I understand what he's trying to say. I don't agree with it. There does come a point in time, though, that I got to say this as well. Tony Petitti in this 4-4-2-2-1 model, as you brought up, it's hurting a lot of things. Joe, by the way, I heard over and over and over again from Indiana, from James Franklin, and from Lincoln Riley at Big Ten Media Days. All of them took shots at scheduling, mainly at the SEC. Lincoln Riley tried to cancel the LSU game a year ago. They're trying to push off what seems like the Notre Dame rivalry yet again. Joe, the only teams I see canceling games are the ACC and Big Ten. It's the only ones. So you keep talking about scheduling and all this, and the Big Ten fans come out here and say, we play 9 conference games. You went to 9 conference games in 2026. It's the dumbest move per James Franklin that you did. Don't know if I agree or disagree with him. Why does everybody got to conform to your set of rules? Why? They don't. They legitimately don't have to do what you do. Joe, you got to keep the AQ models alive. I think you hit the nail on the head here from a broader perspective, but I wanted to hear from a broad perspective, you're 1,000% correct. From a narrow view, this is the problem of the expansion. And Notre Dame and Southern Cal are getting thrown into this abyss of what they both need to do. With all due respect to Notre Dame, you got to play tough teams on your schedule. You do. You're one of the only teams that's worth a damn, okay, that is an independent. Great for you. You play a lot of tough teams. Good for you that you have your independence. But, Joe, there is one thing about this. A lot of the conferences aren't necessarily disagreeing with one another. A lot of your mold of what you do has Big Ten teams in it. They're going in a different direction, and you're not in a conference. You're kind of in no man's land. I am not saying for Notre Dame to join a conference. I'm not telling you to do that. But as things start to shift and these are different alliances, Joe, when's the last time that Notre Dame had 2 SEC teams on their schedule? When has that ever happened beyond this year? What I think is happening a little bit here, some of these Big Ten teams, Michigan, Michigan State, whoever, USC now potentially, these Big Ten teams aren't scheduling you. Joe, you play A&M and Arkansas this year. Like, it's not as if that I remember Notre Dame playing that many SEC teams. I remember playing Georgia once.
Yeah, they had a home and home with Georgia.
I mean, historically, it's not come to the South. I mean, I don't remember it being a massive thing here. I legitimately don't. But again, I think Notre Dame's going to have to pay attention to this Big Ten thing. And I wonder, conspiracy theory, if Tony Petitti's not telling people to back out to try to go get Notre Dame to join their conference. You're kind of in no man's land right now, and no one's telling you to join. But there does come a day as all these new realignments in college football is changing, Joe, you got to be open to the opportunity. I hate to say it. I understand everything that goes on beyond it. But, Joe, I mean, when they come to these college playoff games and this college playoff and everything that's expanding, Joe, why do you never hear Notre Dame say a word about anything? Because they're not backed by a conference. All of these presidents and commissioners and all of these head coaches have a commissioner to back them who has a vote in this thing. Notre Dame's in la-la land.
Well, in a good way. They're in la-la land in a good way because everything has been
wrong.
Everything has been catered to them, which is, I mean, I'm not going to complain. Notre Dame has we talked about this when they changed the AQ model. Notre Dame now can have
the number one
overall right? A bye in this circumstance. Notre Dame fans should be rooting for not expanding the playoff and it's sticking at 12 because you're in the best possible situation. And also to your point, Notre Dame now in the near future, they've got in 2029, they're playing Alabama and Texas. They're playing Texas and Arkansas in 2028. Purdue is kind of always like a floating team on the schedule. The only like big Big Ten brand outside of, actually, I might even include Purdue. They play Michigan State twice. They have a home and home with Michigan State. They play Wisconsin next year. It's really not a lot of Big Ten teams, which historically it's been a lot of a rivalry that you had with Michigan and with Michigan State. I have said this on the show before. I'm not a true advocate for Notre Dame joining a conference because at the current moment, the way things are situated, especially after that update to the seeding system, it doesn't make sense for them to join a conference. But it would not surprise me if in the next 10 years, they're not a member of the Big Ten. It wouldn't surprise me. And I also always love to bring this up too. Reason why Notre Dame's not in the Big Ten is because of Michigan. I forget what the exact story is, but Michigan went out of their way to keep Notre Dame out of the Big Ten. And history is looked on that very favorably for Notre Dame and less favorably for Michigan.
Well, Joe, again, and the overarching theme of this, we barely talked about the rivalry. But what do you want us to do? I mean, I don't know where else to talk about this on. In reference to what direction did you think that we were going to go in talking about this? It's
all about resumes. It's all about resumes.
It's all about resumes. And quite honestly, with all due respect to Notre Dame, okay, you did schedule a lot of tougher opponents. Okay, you are coming to the South. Joe, I got to be real with you. I think that the Big Ten is just kind of putting their hands up and saying, if the conference, Tony Petitti ran out there at Big Ten Media Days and said, the only thing that we want to matter is conference record. Do playing games in conference record. He's on record, pun intended, in saying that. Joe, why would they play you? Why would they play you? I mean,
well, there's the money that you make off of
Why
and also for the broadcasting the game.
Yeah, sure. Sounds great and all that. All good. But the real money and what you're really trying to do is get to a playoff. The Notre Dame rivalry doesn't mean shit in the ultimate goal of things. You want to find out how strong your rivalry is? Put a playoff in between it and see what happens. Joe, it's what's happening here. And I don't even know if Lincoln, last thing.
Yes.
Lincoln has no say in this, really. This isn't a Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley's is not the decision making. Joe, these presidents are. The presidents literally are the board members to the commissioner. Lincoln Riley has no say in this whatsoever. So we put it on him. Joe, he's not the final decision maker in this either.
No, so we can't. That's kind of one of the funny things with this, by the way, is that we can't truly fault Lincoln Riley for this. He just happens to be the mouthpiece for the message. I do think you bring up a very interesting point, though. I think that a lot of these teams and conferences, and I'm not saying that Petitti's maybe projecting to handle it this way to squeeze out Notre Dame, but more so that these coaches and these presidents are building a grudge against Notre Dame and the advantage that they have, and they don't feel an incentive to schedule them, especially if you're a Big Ten team and you already have 9 conference games against teams in the Midwest. If you're going to schedule somebody, it should be somebody that is in a completely different part of the country so that you can expand your reach. You can expand your brand so that a kid in the state of Alabama or a kid in the state of Texas can see Michigan line up. That's more valuable than going to Indiana when you're already able to produce a recruiting and alumni fan base presence in those areas. It's already there. The SEC has been aggressive about scheduling Notre Dame because they know the advantage of when you get an SEC team playing Notre Dame, you make a shitload of money. Just plain and simple. It's good business. You make a shitload of money. It's probably one of the underlying factors too why the SEC doesn't want to jump to 9 conference games. Is we'd like to be able to add competitive, unique games like this to the mix.
Catholics and rednecks trying to make money. It's a tale as old as time.
Maybe Notre Dame should go to the SEC. Maybe that's what you
Do you think Greg Sankey, if there were an exception, do you think Greg Sankey would add them even though they're in Indiana?
Has there ever really been any negative? I know that some SEC fan bases don't like Notre Dame, but do you think has there ever really been a negative tone towards Notre Dame from SEC?
I mean, LSU fans definitely because of the BK thing.
But that's fans.
But once BK,
not fans. I'm talking
once
administration.
BK retires, that's gone. It's like the Saban thing.
Yeah.
Right when Saban left, the LSU thing just kind of went by itself. No, not really. He just talked about being regional a lot. But I mean, listen. I'm just going to end it with this. The Big Ten is run scared in some of this. It's a shame that Ohio State doesn't get thrown in that mix. Michigan doesn't get thrown in that mix. Joe, the majority of the Big Ten looks like they're running scared. If I'm being real with you. I mean, you keep canceling games with people. You keep trying to cancel games with people. That is soft. And you talk about these 9 conference games. Joe, I am so tired of hearing this. You get to play Northwestern, big dog. Sorry. The Nebraska
Northwestern was good for a stretch.
Okay. No, stop. Come on. Joe, we talked about this. South Carolina was your 7th best team in the SEC last year. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? I know we don't want to go here. You kind of put me on this thing again. But
no. I'm not letting you go down this path.
But again, hold on. Someone's going to have
all last week.
Okay, but someone's going to have to explain to me what the Big Ten thinks they're doing by talking about scheduling to the SEC when you keep canceling games. Sorry. I mean, Joe, am I going fucking nuts? Am I the only dumb one here? Can we all not see this?
I don't disagree with you. And I didn't disagree with you last week.
I mean,
I just think we've, I don't know. It's a stupid conversation, not from you. It's dumb that it was started by Lashley and Signetti, and it's been just
golly. Dumb. Got more drama than a high school girl. I mean, come on. That's getting clipped. By the way, Joe, this Deion thing, I'm just going to mention it just to mention it for people that are watching. This Deion Sanders medical thing is starting to get very real.
Yeah, I know that we kind of talked about, like, we want to wait to see what he says, but I hope he's okay. That's my main thing. I hope he's good. If he has to take time away, we're wishing him a speedy recovery. I hope he can coach this year. I'm going to be really disappointed if we don't have, after all this kind of hype that we had this year, it'd be really disappointing if we didn't get to have him. I like seriously, like selfishly, I'd love to have him coaching a team this year. And I'm hoping it's nothing.
There's another report coming out of Boulder. Listen, when or whatever happens with Coach Prime, we'll just do it then. But I mean, again, I don't know. This is weird. I don't know what's going on. All right, Joe, as we wrap up here, Sherrone Moore was asked about his quarterback battle that he has at the University of Michigan. Your thoughts on this Sherrone Moore and QB battle with Keene and Underwood?
So you mentioned this at the beginning of the show that, like, there's kind of been like a little bit of this push on the Michigan side to, like, tamper your expectations with Underwood. The quote that comes from Sherrone Moore: before anyone asks, it's an open competition. There is no starter. When they have the team, have the team, we'll know we have our starter. Jaden Davis, Mikey Keene, Jake Garcia are the other three guys that are in the mix for Michigan. I said this back when we did a conversation on this at the beginning of the spring. There is no value to me in starting one of these three guys. There's just not. You have an incredibly gifted and talented player in Bryce Underwood.
Yes.
Who some people are comparing to the next Cam Newton. Like, that's how good he can be and how dominant he can be.
He's not that good of a runner, but okay.
Even if he's not ready to go, it is so much better for your program as you are growing and developing and changing and getting younger because of the weird transition from Harbaugh to Sherrone Moore. It is best for the success of your team for him to start and to learn how to play the game. Sitting on the bench is good sometimes, but when you're in this situation that Michigan's in, he needs to start. Mikey Keene doesn't get you anything. Mikey Keene might get you an 8-win season. Cool. I'd rather win 7 games and Bryce Underwood pop off for a couple of games and get excited for the next year. Or maybe you catch some lightning like they did last year, and Bryce Underwood's freaking awesome, and he's as good as DJ Lagway was down the stretch. And they win 9 ball games, and they're in the conversation for the playoff. That has so much more value. The other part about this, I'm not insinuating that he would transfer, but, like, I also kind of, like, randomly think of Quinn Ewers goes to Ohio State. Quinn Ewers sits on the bench at Ohio State. CJ Stroud takes over. Quinn Ewers transfers to Texas. Like, why would you even create the chance that he might leave when you get no return out of starting one of these other guys?
I think it's all bullshit. I think they're trying to get people to compete. Joe, with all due respect, you spent a shitload of money to flip this kid. What do you mean he's not starting? I mean, we got to start having serious conversations for these top end guys of Joe, even if Keene wins the battle out of camp, just based off of experience alone, right? Like, maybe he does more, he does things better than Bryce Underwood during camp, and because of that, he gets the Harbaugh start. Sherrone Moore learned from Harbaugh. Joe, what if they pull a J.J. McCarthy dual start again? One guy's going to start one game, the other guy's going to start the other game, then we'll make our decision. Who knows what he's going to do? I mean, your schedule is easy enough. I mean, maybe not with Oklahoma. I don't know if you can do that with Oklahoma. Maybe you got to do it differently when you go off in there. But, Joe, I got to just be real with you. I mean, I agree with you. You got to run this kid out there. I will say this. When you have a guy with a lot of experience, starting or not, but just an older guy, Joe, there's a reason they brought him in. Could be for experience depth. Could be for, listen, this is going to be this kid's job. You're going to sit on the sidelines. Look, listen to us, learn. If being a coach is what you want to do, sounds great. Let's get after it. Be a part with us. We'll let you in meetings. I saw a quarterback last year in the SEC, Joe, was never going to play, said in every coaching meeting, said in every single one of them, because his path, he's a senior, he's going to be a coach. Okay, cool. By the way, he's going to be a GA at probably like 3 months. Bottom line is, this kid can win out in experience, and when you need experience, you never know how much you needed it until you needed it. I remember said quarterback, just going to leave this alone, but said quarterback did come into a game and had to deliver a win for his team, who was a playoff contender. The thing I would say here is Underwood is the most talented kid on your roster. It's not remotely close. There is nobody more talented than him. You're going to have to live with the mistakes. And, Joe, by the way, you got to give him live bullets if he's going to have any impact you going into Oklahoma. I mean, like into Oklahoma week. Like, you got to give him those live reps. So you kind of got an early situation here. You better start swinging with him early and get him ready. Because, again, Venables is a lot of things. A guy that can send you a shitload of things to a young quarterback who's never seen this, and the game's really fast. He's like, what's going on? R. Mason Thomas coming off the edge. Joe, you got to get him ready. You got to get him ready now. I got to be real with you. I don't know how much I like the answer, because it's not as if that you have a couple of weeks like you have had in the past to kind of figure out the quarterback situation. Joe, they did it last year. Remember, they try to give multiple guys reps. Texas comes up in there and blasts their ass. Better not do that again. Get him ready now. I mean, we literally saw you, and I understand the situation you were in last year. Yeah, I completely understand it. But you got to send one guy out there and start taking live bullets. If it's that bad, then fine. But Bryce Underwood, you're going to have to let him go through those live things before he gets into week 2.
I think that there's always like a balance between trying to figure out how to develop your quarterback, the amount of exposure to playing early as a true freshman, a redshirt, whatever it is. The NFL is really different, where I think like if a guy is really raw and you're like a Jordan Love, even also an Anthony Richardson type guy, it's better to sit if you need to learn. But in college,
he's not there.
Right. In college, you need to go play. I look at Nebraska and Dylan Raiola, and that team is slowly growing its roster. Michigan's got in a better position this year in year 2 of Sherrone Moore than Matt Rule's team last year with Nebraska. But as the team was getting better, it allowed for Raiola to go through adversity and to learn how to handle that adversity. Think about all the times that we watch second-year quarterbacks that didn't start at all the first year. It takes them a little bit. Why am I wasting time if 2026 is the year that you're hoping to make a title run? Why am I wasting the time of the first few weeks of the season and then hoping by the end of the year that he's ready to go? When I can get the chance to throw him out there now. No, that was all I was going to say.
Well, I'm asking you a question here. Would it be very shocking to you if he's not the starter?
I'd be blown away. You spent all of this money to bring him in. And I'm sure that part of the whole stipulation with this arrangement, he goes to LSU, he's not starting. He's not starting over Garrett Nussmeier. He's not.
Joe,
you think that wasn't part of the convo? That like, hey, you know what? I want to go play right away.
Joe, I got to be real with you. Here's my God's honest opinion. Number one, I saw the kid live, and in my like, everybody talked about Arch Manning coming out when they really should have been talking about him. I've seen it up close and personal. Joe, it's the closest thing to an NFL practice I've seen. From a throwing aspect, listen, it's not remote. Brother, my man's got a hose, pause. But, I mean, he legitimately, I saw him without a crow hop hit Harlan Berry, the number 1 running back in the country, from 62 yards away in the air. Without a crow, I've seen it with my own eyes. This dude can spin it, son. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, this isn't Dylan Raiola. Sorry, I like Raiola. It's not the same.
No, yeah, he's supposed to be. A lot of people think he's better.
He's not as athletic as people are like the Cam Newton comparison. It's not that. Nuh-uh. It ain't that. Watch. You're gonna see him in week 1. Let him let one loose. That bitch is gonna fly. I'm telling you, this kid can go, man. I don't know what they're trying. I know that they're trying to temper some expectations. This is different. This kid's different. And, Joe, I got to be real with you. The whole LSU thing, Joe, they didn't match. They didn't come far off. They did not come far off. Garrett announced he returned. The kid flipped. I mean, I'm not saying it had the reason, But I know for a fact that they were telling the kid he was going to start here because they thought Garrett was gone. I mean, like, I don't think these situations are not predetermined. I cannot be convinced that this. And by the way, isn't your head coach going to be suspended for the first couple of games? You better get ready. Like, you don't have time to waste with him.
That's actually that's a kind of a random. Although I guess the games that he's suspended for, they're kind of meaningless.
Sherrone Moore has a massive hand in that room. Let's call it like it is. Sherrone Moore can talk to him during the game about stuff that maybe he can talk to him in the film room, all that kind of stuff too. Maybe it's not that big of a deal. But, I mean, not having the dude that's got his hands all in the offense, not being there in live bullet games, and then being the first time you go up against Oklahoma and Venables' defense, is not the time to do it. You better give him as many live bullets as you can, brother. I mean, one thing Oklahoma was not last year was bad on defense. As shitty as we talk about them, our Mason Thomas took Will Campbell, the only man. It wasn't Jared Verse. It wasn't Braden Fisk. It wasn't Patrick Payton. It wasn't Will Anderson. It wasn't any of those guys. The only guy that I ever saw give Will Campbell troubles was our Mason Thomas. Joe, Will Campbell gave up 3 sacks in his college career. 2 of them are to our Mason Thomas.
Well, and it's like,
I mean, don't let that be Underwood, what I'm trying to say.
Well, the opposite of this is that Underwood is so much of a better athlete than all of these guys that, like, why am I not throwing out there the guy who, at the very least, if we're having trouble throwing the ball, we're getting pressure up the ass, let's go put out the guy that's the best athlete to go make some plays.
Because listen, if the first time that he feels getting hit in college comes in a critical situation and he's on the road, confidence is a big deal.
I get that. And that you don't want to cripple a young kid's confidence. And that's something that people were questioning with Raiola when he started to struggle.
That's exactly where I was going. Exactly where I was going. What were we talking about week 7 with Nebraska? Dude, Raiola looked shot. I mean, what was the end of the game that they lost? I forget where he threw a pick. Was it Iowa? Maybe Iowa, something like that. We're like,
it might have been Iowa.
He's seeing ghosts. I mean, Sam Darnold. Remember when Sam Darnold said, "I'm seeing ghosts"? That was Dylan Raiola. All right. We'll see y'all soon. Hopefully, we have some calm and interesting news on the Abyss. We'll see y'all soon. Y'all have a good one. Peace.